greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. Words to think from Robert Swan, the man who walked his way to both the poles of the planet. Hello everyone, this is Nadia again with you, and this is my 4th episode of my e-waste recycling awareness campaign, that is Green Plug E-Cycle UAE. Sustainability, it should be a lifestyle and not something to talk about or write an article about. And each of us have to be at the forefront of this shift that puts less stress on Earth's resources. From simple steps, what we may think as simple, to using less power and water, to larger strategic initiatives like solar and wind power. The movement that begins within oneself and should move towards collective efforts by the community and then to the global community. We have had enough of technological updates and innovations throughout this pandemic year than ever in the history of technology. Is there anyone who is listening to this who has bought a new electronic equipment this year? Or anyone who is planning to buy a newer version of technology what you already have? Of course, there will be so many among us, including myself. But have you ever thought of the older and outdated equipments? Now, do you know the fastest growing trash problem faced by our planet now? It is none other than the e-waste problem. How can we clean up the world's fastest growing trash problem? Clean your minds and think. We can turn this trash into treasure. Of course, it is the truth. What you do with this truth is completely up to you. Knowledge is power, but lack of knowledge? Well, you fill in the blank. Ghana, Accra, Agbogbloshie. Just Google for this place in West Africa and so many videos will appear. On the outskirts of Ghana's biggest city sits a smoldering wasteland, a slum carved into the banks of the Kole Lagoon, one of the most polluted bodies of water on earth. The locals call it Sodom and Gomorrah. Ghana, the digital dumping ground. A 20-minute documentary that was aired on PBS's Frontline or World. You can view it online. Reveals a shocking amount of e-waste from various other countries ends up in the developing world, where children and adults scavenge for components they can sell or melt down motherboards for gold scrap. In the documentary, we can see correspondent Peter Clean and a group of graduate journalist students from the University of British Columbia have gone there as a part of a global investigation to track a shadowy industry that's causing big problems there and around the world. Their guide is a 13-year-old boy named Alex. He shows them his home, a small room in a mass of shanty dwellings, and offers to take them across a dead river to the so-called toxicity, Agbogbloshie. Agbogbloshie has become one of the world's digital dumping grounds, that is a former wetland, which is now home to one of the world's largest electronic waste dumps, or where the world's illegal e-waste gets piled up. Hundreds of millions of tons of it each year. The team meets with Mike and Annie, a local journalist who has been writing about the boys at this e-waste dump. He says, life is really difficult. They eat here surrounded by e-waste. They basically are here to earn a living, but you can imagine the health implications. Some of the boys burn old foam on top of computers to melt away the plastic, leaving behind scraps of copper and iron they can collect to sell. The younger boys use magnets from old speakers to gather up the smaller pieces left behind at the burn site. When the containers of old computers first began arriving in West Africa a few years ago, Ghanaians welcomed what they thought were donations to help bridge the digital divide. But soon, exporters learned to exploit the loopholes by labeling junk computers donations, leaving men like Godson to sort it out. Godson, one of the e-waste dealers who have set up shop close to the port, shows the contents of the container he has bought. He sorts through them looking for working electronics that can be sold. He says that maybe 50% of the shipment is junk and the rest he will be able to salvage in some way. After it's sorted, a load of contents of the container will still be dumped at the burn site outside of the town. Hard drives that can be salvaged are displayed at open-air markets. Off camera, Ghanaians admit that organized criminals sometimes comb through these drives for personal information to use in scams. As part of the investigation, one of the students buys a number of hard drives to see what is in them, secretly filming the transaction to avoid the seller's suspicions. The students take the hard drives to Regent University in the Ghanaian capital and ask computer scientist Enoqueski Mishia to help read what is on them. Within minutes, he is scrolling through intimate details of people's lives, files left behind by the hard drive's original owners. This is private financial data too. Credit card numbers, account information, record of online transactions the original owners may not have realized were even there. I can get you bank numbers and I retrieve all your money from your accounts, Lucia says. If ever somebody gets your hard drive, he can get every information about you from the drive, no matter where it is hidden. That's particularly a problem in a place like Ghana, which is listed by the US State Department as one of the top sources of cybercrime in the world. And it's not just individuals who are exposed. One of the drives the team has purchased contains a $22 million government contract. It turns out the drive came from the Northrop Grumman, one of America's largest military contractors. And it contains details about sensitive multi-million-dollar US government contracts too. They also find contracts with the Defense Intelligence Agency, NASA, even Homeland Security. The government contracting process is supposed to be confidential. If I know how you are hiring the people for security-related job, TSA air marshals, then I can prepare a person to fit that model and get my gun in, Dury says. Once I have my guy in, you have no security. Northrop Grumman refused to speak to Frontline or World on camera, but they did issue a statement saying the potential security threat was disconcerting and they pledged to investigate. Right now, there are no tough laws regulating the disposal of e-waste, leaving companies and consumers to sort out the claims of recyclers on their own. Following the recycling process, as a consumer would, students drop off some e-waste at a facility on America's west coast. They are wearing a hidden camera and are assured that what they are bringing in will be disposed of safely and locally. One worker at the facility tells them what they literally do is dump it into a blast furnace and it burns it all up. And all they get out of it is a bunch of ash and some of the precious metal. Everything else gets consumed, burnt, and that's an actual fact. The team notes the container numbers leaving the facility and using public record traces where they are sent. A few weeks later, their reporting takes them to the port of Hong Kong. Just a few miles from Hong Kong's port, hidden behind 8-foot high corrugated walls, are mountains of computer monitors, printer cartridges from Georgia, relics of old video arcades. In China, e-waste has become a big business. The southern Chinese city of Guyu has been completely built around the E-way Strait, miles and miles of nothing but old electronics. Jim Pocket is an environmental activist credited with discovering this harmful e-waste route to China. He has accompanied the team to Guyu, a place he first visited 8 years ago, and calls it the dirty little secret of the high-tech industry. Video Pocket shot in 2001 was the first anyone had documented showing Western computers being dumped in Guyu. He found tens of thousands of people working there in the toxic trade. On his return visit, Puckett says things have gotten worse. I was there first in 2001 and it was shocking enough then. It had gone from very bad to really horrific, and what is happening there is a rather apocalyptic. One of the most disturbing things Puckett points out is happening behind closed doors. Women literally cooking circuit boards to salvage the computer chips which have trace amounts of gold. All these old motherboards and other types of circuit boards are being cooked day in day and day out, mostly by women, sitting there breathing the lead tin solders. It's just quite devastating, Puckett says. To find out who is making money off this hazardous work, the team travels to downtown Hong Kong, home to hundreds of companies that import e-waste into China. No one here will speak to the reporters on camera, so they filmed surreptitiously. Puckett and one of our reporters arranged to meet an e-waste broker willing to explain the e-waste trade from the inside. The man explains how hundreds of thousands of tons of American e-waste makes its way into China, despite laws intended to stop it. If we were to send your raw materials, would our recyclers get in trouble with the Chinese government if they find their material coming into mainland? Puckett asks the broker. I can only say that if they get caught, it has nothing to do with you, because I buy from you and then I sell to him. He is buying from me, he is not buying from you, the man explains. He says that since Hong Kong ships millions of containers to the US and most return empty, it's cheap to load them with e-waste and too expensive to dispose the e-waste safely, no matter what recyclers claim. When the reporters ask what sort of environmental due diligence there is, the man responds, I can only say one thing. If you want to do it environmentally, you have to pay. They have to invest in machinery, labor, everything. It isn't worth it to pay so much money. On the last trip of the assignment, the team heads to India. No longer just a dumping ground, India is now generating its own e-waste at an alarming rate, thanks to a growing middle class with a taste for high-tech. Last year, we sold more than 7 million pieces in India, says Indian businessman. We generated 330,000 tons of electronic waste within India, so all these are going to come back to the waste stream sooner or later. It's a growing industry, he concluded. In one documentary from Akbar Gloshi, it was explained by a dismantler that sometimes when the workers, mostly youngsters, break open the devices, there will be acid leaks and it usually splashes into their skin, and one time to the face of a small boy that ends up as a severe intensive care hospital case. Once, a boy who was carrying a television glass frame on his head fell down, and it took months for him to recover from the wounds caused by the glass pieces that pierced on his body, both from the TV glass what he carried and also from the ground where those sharp pieces are always found as a part of the land there. Many of such e-waste dumping yard videos are really hard to watch. There are innocent people who are dying and getting hurt because of our reactions and what we are doing to their homes and lands. They think it to be charity without realizing how much damage is being caused to them and to their environment. Just think of a chance in life to go and visit these places and ask those people what they think. They should have nice homes, hospitals, cars, clothing, and they shouldn't have polluted waters, the basic facility, and rivers, pure and fresh air to breathe in. They should just have as much as we have in minimum, the basic facilities they deserve as a human, as much as we do. Because they help with our e-waste, when we should be the ones who should be handling our own issues. Now coming to UAE, United Arab Emirates, the country known for its determined visionaries and tolerant nature, is far ahead in the e-waste safe disposal and treatment technology. And coming to future sustainability in UAE, there are more than a handful of projects already completed and are successful, and also enumerate upcoming projects for sustainable living. Like Sharjah Sustainable City, a Sharjah Investment and Development Authority Shuruk project has announced the launch of flexible and competitive payment plans to encourage people to own residential units in the first fully sustainable residential community in Sharjah. The project aims to promote the concept of social sustainability by establishing community outreach programs that ensure a safe, healthy, and cultural lifestyle for all its residents who aspire to a better future for themselves and their families. And Masdar City in Abu Dhabi. Masdar City is an emerging global clean technology cluster located in what aims to be one of the world's most sustainable urban development powered by renewable energy. Businesses and homes will connect to green data centers which use energy saving servers. The Sustainable City in Dubai, the first operational net zero energy city in Dubai, modeled to become an international showcase for high quality sustainable living. Thus, UAE, a city of wealthy enough of oil and energy, steps out of its comfort zone and embraces greener resources for every aspect of life. The world around has something very much positive to learn from it. The dry desert environment can never withhold a community who looks forward to the greener future. There are plenty of things the world could adapt from UAE's sustainable cities and its way of living. UAE is encouraging other nations to join the movement, which is all about less consumption while using natural resources wisely. The future of the planet depends on us acting now. Just hope that one day we would change how we are treating the earth, our home, where we all are one big happy family, considering the needs of our future generations without making them run and suffer for things what we consider as basic and cheap amenities now. Let us not make water, energy, food and air a luxury for our children. So when you put the whole thing together, it is the word, yes, the very word, recycling, that should come into action now. Thank you and wishing you all joy and happiness. Stay tuned for my next podcast that will reach out to you soon with loads of surprise factors. It's me Nadia for Green Plug E-Cycle UAE signing off. Bye bye.